Welcome to the Discover Montcalm podcast, where we're going to take a look at the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up Montcalm County. Here is your podcast host, Dwayne Weed.
Hello and welcome to the Discover Montcalm podcast. My name's Dwayne. I'm your host and producer, and this is episode number 69. The second part of the Birthplace of Meijer podcast, the little history that they did back in 2001. I think it was May of 2001 at what was then the new Meijer store in Greenville on South Greenville Road. A group of executives got together along with Fred and Lena, and they were telling the story and kind of going over Meijer. Left to right, the best that I can get here is we have a Tom, a Jim, a Lloyd, Lena, Fred, Leo the barber, Mario, and Dwayne, and the moderator, his name was Rick. So let's dive right in and look a little bit more into the culture of Meijer as recorded back in 2001.
Although Tom may be the kid of this group, I think I'm the kid of the Greenvilleites here. I'm about 10 years younger than Fred, and or 10 and a half years maybe. And so I don't have any memories of the start of the store. I have a lot of memories of my mother and father and my older brothers and sisters talking about the Meijer store and about the family. My mother was Dutch. She was from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and settled here. And she used to tell about Henry Meijer being able to tell her, I know where your grandparents came from in the Netherlands, and they talked about that. I wish that I had the sense of history at that time to find out what he knew more about my ancestors than I did, or than my mother did, I think. One of the earliest memories that she used to talk about taking my older brothers over to the barber shop that Henry ran to get their haircuts. At that time, she said haircuts were 20 cents for the kids. And she said my brother Charles was particularly difficult, that he, whether this was one incident or several, but she talked about it many times, about taking him over there and how he wouldn't hold still, and Henry Meijer spent a lot of time trying to even it up, because he'd get it cut on one side and then he would squirm and wiggle and he'd have to even it up on the other side. And so she said instead of charging her 20 cents for his haircut, he charged her a dime, because he said it wasn't that good a haircut. And she said, really, he should have charged me 30 cents for the time that he spent and the work that he spent on it. So that's one of my earliest memories of Meijer's.
And Dwayne, now we get to you. You started with Meijer at a rather early age. What made you stay with Meijer as long as you have?
Well, I think what really impressed me is the people that I worked with was a big impression on me. I can remember Lloyd Whipple hired me, and I seen the people come in and respect him as a working man, and I liked that a lot. And I said, someday I'm going to be in this business. So I think that's what's dragged me for so many years, and I love working with the people. You see the same familiar faces every day that come into the store, and you get to know them by their first name, you talk to them. Now it's been generations. I've seen, this is my third generation of these little kids growing up, and their kids growing up, and those kids growing up, and they're still coming in.
Well, that's great. And that gets us to the next topic, which was really going to talk about the community. And I know, Fred, you don't have to hang around you very long to know how proud you are to come out of the Greenville community, and I sense that the Greenville community is very proud to be the home of one of the finest retailers in the world, and this is where they've gotten their start. And I know as a company philosophy that we're very concerned that we're good community members and good neighbors in the communities that we operate in. Why is it so important to give back to the community?
Well,
I don't know if we consciously think it's important to give back to the community. It's important to be part of the community, and if you like the community in which you live, you take part. And so it really isn't a policy. It follows your feelings. I mean, my dad can remember, and he used to tell me stories about when they had the telephone poles, the power poles down Main Street, and there was 2 power companies in Greenville. And one night, the one power company lost their license. In the middle of the night, they cut all the poles down. Those are the rough and tough days. And he was in the barber shop, but he was living on East Cass Street, behind the building on the corner. Well, right between the church and the corner, the Congregational Church. And boom, 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 the telephone poles went down. So when you get to be a barber like my dad, and you get like Leo, you know more things about the town and the people. And he liked the people. Leo liked the people. And the various things. This Ellis Ranny that came in, he signed all my dad's mortgages. If he hadn't signed the mortgages, we wouldn't have had the mortgages. If we hadn't had the mortgages, we wouldn't have been broke in the Depression, and so forth. Well, in the meantime, Ellis he put on a gruff front, and really he was a nice guy, but he put on a gruff front. And I don't know whether Muriel was scared to wait on him or not at first. Were you scared of him? I mean, some of the cashiers were scared of him. And then there was a character named Bill Smith, the orchard man. And
I got a picture of it right here.
That's another story.
Big old Bill Smith.
Yes,
and
that's
I think
another story.
Muriel is saying she was scared of him.
Yes.
And but you know, and Lena, you could see I should be scared of her because she knew how to handle him beautifully, and she's been handling me beautifully too. I mean, you know,
We're going to get to that, Fred.
I know. I don't want you to get to it. Too many stories. But the point is, Ellis was a character. They owned the factory, and the Gibsons. When he wanted his hair cut 6 in the morning. My dad wouldn't do it because he had to get up at 4 to fire up the stove. But a lot of things happened in Greenville too. I mean, in North Greenville, the barber shop had the lumber yard that Leo was talking about across the street where his dad worked. It had the potato farmers coming in from all over because Greenville once shipped more potatoes than any other city in the world.
They were the top shippers.
Top shippers. And then there was the railroad men. There was a junction here where they either changed crews or stopped over. I don't know why, but Durant was the place of the Grand Trunk that repaired the trains. But they would play games. And one time my dad went to lunch across the street, didn't lock the barber shop, and they moved all his equipment on the sidewalk and hung a sign on "Barber Wanted." Another time they got on the roof and put a board on it with a brick. And my dad burned the hair in the stove, and it drove him out with the aroma or the terrible smell of the burnt hair. And another time my dad didn't know this. I don't know, maybe Leo was in on it, maybe he knew it, maybe he wasn't in it, I don't know. But he found out some of his barbers were bootlegging whiskey out of his boiler in the summer when they didn't burn the boiler. And they it's a small town with farmers and lumber dealer and potato farmers and railroad people, and there was a lot of mischief went on. And I could give you a big story, but we don't want to.
Nobody got hurt.
And nobody got hurt, Leo says. But so you become a part of the town. My dad was the only surviving on the board of the United Memorial Hospital when that was built. Yep. Before it was built, up on Orange Street was a Belknap, I think it was a Belknap house where they had the hospital. You couldn't get the beds through the door. It was very, very fire prone, and it's still there today, but never burned. But my dad was worried it was going to burn, and he said, "We got to have a better hospital." Well, that's how the new hospital came about. Before they got done, so many boards of directors are just kind of honorary things, fun things, but when the going gets rough, the people don't want to partake that seriously. So he kept working on that hospital, and so he was the only surviving hospital board member till the time they got the hospital built. Well, and there's a door with our name on it there, someplace on the second floor, I think. But now we moved to Grand Rapids in 1951-52 over that year-end time, and then we used Butterworth Hospital in Grand Rapids. So somebody else built Butterworth, which we used, and say we helped build Greenville, which other people used and we never used.
Community involvement, it is important to the company, and it is one of our top strategies. Can you expound on that and tell us why? Explain a little bit.
We did go through, Rick, and revise our strategy, or at least we say we revised it. What I think we've truly done is we went back and studied our history and said of all of the things we've done in our history, one of the things that needs to be carried forward is our community involvement. And we have been known almost for being unknown. And that sounds a little contradictory, but in our company we have, as Fred said earlier, we don't consciously think about where should we go to do something in the community. We take a kind of a natural flow. When we find a need in the community, we respond to it. And our history has always been that we've responded without trying to get our name on the front door, or trying to get a lot of strong publicity for it. That's not been the Meijer way. And we are finding today in the retail world that people have used community involvement very much as a competitive spirit, that they do it for getting competitive advantage rather than for solving a particular need in the community. And I think that's because so much of retail now is a national approach, because consolidation has taken place, and there isn't the neighborhood retailer like we've had that built the entire economy. And so that's changed the whole world in which we live. So I think we have changed a bit too. We still, I believe, are very good at trying to assess the needs in all the markets in which we participate, and we do a lot with hospitals. Local hospitals are still very strong in our list. Certainly education has been a very strong element that we've tried to support. And I think there's probably an underlying influence, and that's where do families congregate, and in that we try to participate heavily. So I think that's kind of a little bit of the evolution, but we're very much interested in the communities in which we participate. We're here in Greenville today because it's the birthplace, but we now are in 5 states and many communities, some the size of Greenville, some the size of Detroit, some the size of Cincinnati, and those needs are all different. And we're asking store directors to really pay attention to the needs in the community and become very much a part of the community that we serve.
Well, there's no doubt that we have made an impact on the communities that we have operated in, and in many cases behind the scenes. Is that really what we want to achieve with our involvement? I mean, you've mentioned that we're going a little more public with our community involvement. Is that by design now? Are we intentionally trying to surface our community involvement a little more than we had before?
Well, I think the beauty of what we're doing is we're following the same mode of operation that we always did, and that's that we're not going out and creating needs to gain publicity. We are still trying to be a part of the community and work with the community and understand what the community is in need of and how we might legitimately participate. But we're really trying to focus on those things that impact the customers that we serve most, and the team members within our store, and what are the community events that are important to them. So that's the flavor in which we are going about selecting how we participate in the community. And then I think, yes, we are more willing than we've ever been to take credit for those areas that we are helping.
Fred, over the years, have you really ever taken a moment to reflect upon the magnitude of the impact that we have had on the companies that on the communities that we have operated in?
Well, I don't know. I don't think we know the impact. I know the impact that we'd like to have, and that is that the community is better off because we came than as if we didn't. And I think we're trying to do that, as opposed to reflecting on what did we do. But you know, there's a lot of things in life that give us pleasure and that have nothing to do with money or business, and yet it's all part of money and business. And one is to try to be honest with our guests that you call our customers, we call them our guests. And we do that for a very definite reason. We want people treated like guests as much as possible. And but we Well, we just try to be a good member of the community, and we think that also people like Tom, if he wasn't in Greenville, would like that image that, you know, we're trying to be decent folks, treating people decently, and trying to treat people like we like to be treated. And it's very simple, and yet a lot of young people today, I think, don't realize that how much fun it can be to be of service. And they realize that the first time they work in the store very long, and that, but on our part, if you're 14 or 15 or 16, you're a lady like Muriel, a young lady, or like Lena when she came to Greenville, that your parents are pleased to have them work in the store because they know that they won't run into something that a young girl shouldn't have to run into. And so we're very conscious of that, and we want that to be. There's a story that was told on my 70th birthday also, that Marvin Peterson, P-E-D-E-R-S-E-N or something like that, folks had a farm northeast of Greenville. He started to work in the store. My folks knew his folks. Well, he started, I put him on a job on the step ladder with a bottle of ammonia and a bottle of vinegar and a bucket of water. I said, you mix these up and wash the windows. Well, he dropped the ammonia, and the strong ammonia aroma drove everybody out of that small store. And so we had to close up for, well, it didn't close, we opened all the doors and kept everybody out for, I don't know, there was 10 minutes or an hour, I have no idea. And he said, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired, I'm going to be this and that. And my folks know, my dad, my mother, what am I going to tell him? I go home fired. He had that all conjured up in his mind. But then he said to me, he told this story, and I don't remember it at all. He said, all Fred said to him, because he was really working for me, is, okay, here's a bucket of water, here's a new bottle of ammonia, and there's the vinegar. Go ahead and finish the windows, and so forth. Well, it really represents our philosophy that if a person does their best, they shouldn't be demeaned or beaten up on. And because when you do the best, you can't do any better. But we feel that very strongly. And then I go back to our milk days when I peddled milk, but we had a new milk wagon, and the horse ran away and smashed the harness in the milk wagon, and I felt like a failure. I mean, I was pretty good with a horse as a young kid, but I'd caused that new milk wagon to be broken because I didn't handle that horse. And we were selling milk at a nickel a quart, and $10 for that wagon was a lot of money that we were putting new wheels on it. Well, I ran home, and my dad ran to find me as soon as he found out the horse got in the yard. Of course, you know, a kid 8 or 10 or 12, 11 years old can run pretty fast. I couldn't keep up with the horse, but so I got there shortly after the horse. And all my dad said, are you okay? And then I realized, I didn't even realize. I didn't realize till 30 years later, I was more important than the horse and the wagon and the loss of money. Well, the same thing is true every day in our stores. People are more important. And when a store burned, the Greenville store burned, all my dad said, and we lost our shirt and pants and everything else in the first fire, and the second one we had better insurance, we learned. But all my dad said, nobody got hurt. That was important. So that's, if you can put people first, people will put us first.
Muriel, you've had some community involvement as a result of your career at Meijer, and I understand you got a company certificate for it. Perhaps you can tell us about the situation and describe it to us.
Well, again, we back up. Fred was mentioning the hospital, and it was between the hospital, Gray Lady and the hospital, and my church work that I got the Fred Meijer's community certificate, and it is very important. All the Meijer's family, the community was very important, and I would like to say that Meijer's themselves, all the Meijers that I worked with, the customer came first, but they were all on the same level. We were to treat well for our patients, and as I call them patients then, treat them just like everybody else. And we've had people coming back years later saying to me after they've married and have family of their own, I was so glad that you treated me when I was home. like an ordinary customer. Nobody ever knew that we were on welfare. And many times we've been thanked for treating them as an ordinary person.
Wow, there's some really great history here, and I wanted to share it with everybody, and I broke it up into 4 segments. You just got done listening and watching the second episode. In episode 70, you're going to dive into more history and culture of Meijer, some stories, some, what it was like, or giving accolades to different people that had worked at Meijer. So thank you for tuning in, and remember to buy and shop locally.
Connect and subscribe to Discover Montcalm Podcast at discovermontcalmpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Discover Montcalm Podcast. To be featured in an upcoming show, contact Dwayne at 231-250-9624. Remember to subscribe at discovermontcalmpodcast.com.